Hola a todos. How we doing? Really appreciate the time and effort on these questions. I'm sure this was not an easy week to do it. I could see the submission times, meaning you were working on your cases yesterday and you had to do this. But I appreciate it. It's probably good that we couldn't do the online session last night. Before we get into the questions, when I condensed this course from a full-length semester course to a summer format, which was shorter, I actually condensed 2 weeks into one. So I had Omnichannel and retailing as a week, and I had Internet of Things as a week. And I kind of had to combine them here. But there is a lot of overlap, and it's not terrible. And I'm sure you're good that you didn't have to read 6 articles and you only had to read 3. So you're happy about that. I have a lot of opinions about this stuff, but I think given the quality of the questions, my opinions are going to come out in the questions. So I'm not going to do a preamble here, and I'm going to go straight in. Why is showrooming actually a threat? As the customer still purchasing just through another channel of retailing. There's my golf clap, and I agree with you. The showrooming term comes from the traditional retailers, the people that feel threatened by Omni or threatened by digital. So they're coming up with this showrooming effect narrative because they have to combat it to protect their turf as opposed to shifting with culture and consumer trends. If you were to ask Dr. Dano, showrooming is a non-market oriented term. I have a lot more to say about that, but it's going to come out in the other questions, so I'm going to stop right there. How would a retailer figure out which of the primary purchasing path their consumers typically follow? So this comes from the transactional data either from the loyalty card or from the cash register. Now, when I'm saying this is a retail brick and mortar store way to do that. Like CVS does it, and Target does it, and Kroger does it. But Walmart doesn't do a good job of it. And Kmart doesn't do a good job of it either. The Amazons of the world and the eBays of the world, well, guess what? This is, there's no way to do their normal operating businesses without figuring out how the paths come through. Yes, a retailer could target multiple different patterns as described in the article. As a matter of fact, the same individual might have one type of pattern for CVS, a different one for Walmart, a different one for Lowe's. Their data is okay. A different one for Kroger, supermarket. So the context of the shopping might change the different type of patterns. Maybe if you're looking for consumer electronics, you might have one particular pattern, but if you're food, you might have more like a loyalty kind of locked-in pattern. I think by answering that question, I answered the second half of this question as well. All right, that was Team Bezos, a retailer in and of himself. Okay, Team Nadella, who has some retailing in Microsoft. They have physical stores, and they have the Xbox Live store that my kids mess around with. Would it benefit brick and mortar stores to offer their own online-only catalogs to view products? I'm trying to think of how you're answering these questions. So the only brick and mortar stores that could do that would be brick and mortar stores that have products that are exclusively to them. I'm thinking like, say, Macy's, they have a bunch of private labels. And maybe some of those private labels were only to online. So I don't know if this really gets at the problem, though. Too much of the product, take this blue microphone right here, okay? This can be found everywhere. Physical stores, online stores. There's no way to do an exclusive with something like that. So, Since Pinterest has shown signs of influence, strong signs of influence, by the way, in helping consumers buy online, have there been any companies to partner with Pinterest to streamline the purchase process from one site to the other? Yeah, there are a ton of retailers that partner with Pinterest. Pinterest releases their API to them so they can do unique things by having the pins right on the retailer site so they don't have to log into Pinterest and go find and search. Absolutely, positively. I mean, what happens is I would like to think of Pinterest as sort of like a visual search engine. Sort and decide. I mean, if we go back to our consumer behavior class, attention, interest, desire, action, that attention and interest happens on Pinterest. And then the desire might be built on Pinterest, and action, the actual purchase, the data shows that they make the purchase relatively quick. All right, Team Facebook, Mr. Zuckerberg. They experimented with retailing a little bit. They kind of do all these experiments. I don't think they've really made a firm commitment to any kind of retailing at all. Why would brick and mortar retailers feel threatened? Oh, of course they would. Because most brick and mortar retailers do not have a strong web presence. Meaning, even Target, I can't say that 50% of Target's revenues is coming from online. It's a small percentage. It's like 10%, if that. In some stores, I'm actually wearing Warby Parkers. These are Warby Parkers. Warby Parker is retail agnostic. They are an omnichannel store. Okay? They don't care whether you go online. They don't care whether you go to the store. The two back-end IT infrastructures, logistics, shipping, sales, finance, are completely 100% integrated. I could order stuff online, go to the store, and make swap. I can go to the store and ship it back online. There are a ton of retailers, even in today's day and age, that the online and the physical are two separate silos, and they're not compatible with each other. So if you buy something online, you can't take it back to the store. Those are non-market oriented, and they don't see the future unless they're competing with one another who sell the same product. However, if they were able to rope in the consumer into the retail establishment, why not commit to incentive to drive the consumer to a sale? I like this word agnostic because all they should do is care about satisfying the customer's needs and having them purchase however they purchase. Who cares if it's online and who cares if it's physical? But if we go to Boscov's, they care. They're not market oriented. If we go to Bon-Ton, they care. They're not market oriented. Macy's has not done enough either. They've tried, but they're having internal interfirm communication issues why they haven't gone full tilt into digital. Because remember, for a Macy's or a Walmart to go full tilt into digital, they have to acknowledge that there are thousands of stores and hundreds of thousands of employees in physical stores, and their whole strategy of developing new stores it all has to change. And a lot of people, like Walmart included, have a very hard time looking in the mirror and agreeing to such a thing. It's just too radical. For some of these retail stores that sell products at Amazon and such, how are they spreading their brand if they're pinning an item to the same product? By the way, Amazon is starting to do physical stores as well. And Amazon wants to go more physical. And that's one of the reasons why they spent almost $14 billion and bought Whole Foods. The main reason is because they want same-day shipping for grocery. Grocery is the second largest retail category in the United States. So if Amazon wants to become the size of Walmart, they need to get into grocery. There's just no other way around it. For some of the retail stores that sell the same products that Amazon and others, how are they spreading their brand if they are pinning the item to the product? I'm not sure if I'm understanding this question. Let me hit pause and then I'll come back to this. If they're pinning the product or item. Well, maybe it's not Amazon that are. Maybe it's through Facebook that someone's talking about it, or they're talking about it and other people then go look for it and pin, or I'm not my wife has a Pinterest account. I don't have a Pinterest account. But I know that my wife follows about 40 or 50 other people, and whatever they pin shows up into her feed. So that's how they're finding out how to pin or not pin an item or a product. Or an idea, by the way. A lot of Pinterest is like recipes and ideas. Team Cook, Apple, they have their earnings report literally on our last day of class on the 31st. If Pinterest is helping brands and products get recognized by customers posting pictures, it's not just pictures, it's text too, by the way. Would Pinterest want to come up with an idea to make money off of essentially their free advertisements and products? Similar to click on a link from Pinterest or bans a website and get a commission off the click. Okay, so I have to go back and see where Pinterest is. At one point, Pinterest, this is called affiliate marketing, by the way. Pinterest got themselves, this was a number of years ago, into a lot of trouble. Because they were, if someone didn't have an affiliate account with Amazon or iTunes or Spotify, yet they were pinning songs or pinning books or CDs or DVDs to recommend. Pinterest went in and put in the affiliate link, and Pinterest got the cut, not the person whose account created the pin. Yeah, that was a class action lawsuit. So Pinterest rolled that back, but I still think Pinterest does a significant amount of affiliate. Like, in other words, you can do a Google search right now and see which companies have cut a deal with Pinterest. Like, say, Land's End, or not Best Buy, but a lot of the clothing retailers do. And that's how Pinterest makes a good chunk of their money. They're going to go public sometime in the near future. They're a quiet social media company, which is weird, but it's true. Team Pichai, Google CEO, when the older generation has less buying power in the economy, will brick and mortar shut down? No, absolutely not. It's like ludicrous. Now, will there be less brick and mortar? Yes. But brick and mortar still serve a valuable purpose. We like to be entertained. We like to browse. We like to try on. I just don't think we need 600 Macy's in the United States. I think we could probably get away with 200 of them. I mean, in my area in South Jersey, they just closed the one closest to me, and they're probably going to close the other one down in Deptford. I mean, there's a monster one in Cherry Hill, and there's one in Burlington. There's 2. They used to have 6. 2 would be better. I don't see, and there's multiple questions coming about this. I don't see retailing completely disappearing, but I see retailers such as Toys R Us that only think about retailing in a brick and mortar kind of format. They're not going to survive. JCPenney's is not going to survive. Kmart is not going to survive. There's no way. There's not enough physical retail business for a Target, a Kohl's, and a Kmart, and a Walmart. Maybe 3. Not 4. Certainly not 5. There's not enough department store need for a JCPenney's, a Sears, a Nordstrom, a Macy's, a Boscov's, a Bon-Ton, a Dillard's. No. Maybe 3. Super high end. You think about Nordstrom. You think about, I'm trying to think of the other high end one off the top of my head. I can't think of it off the top of my head. There's probably enough room for some mid-tier, 1 or 2 mid-tier brands. I don't think there's any room for a low-end brand because the Targets and the Kohl's of the world killed the JCPenney's and the Sear's of the world. I mean, Sears would have been dead a long, long time ago if it wasn't for hardware. Questions. The article doesn't mention the difference between male and female purchases affected by Pinterest, yet it uses women in all their examples. What is the male equivalent to Pinterest in regards to enhancing online shopping? It's called Pinterest. Now, maybe it was being polite and using the female in the rhetoric with regards to the write-up in the article. Maybe that's a fault of the article or the two professors who wrote that particular article. Pinterest is, it's probably 80-20 female-male, but there is a lot of males using Pinterest for the same way that females use Pinterest. And outside of Pinterest, there really isn't another visual search engine other than Google. Retailers like Walmart and Target are using hybrid of showrooms and reverse showrooming as a path to purchase for the consumers. Sure, it's what smart people should do. It shouldn't be an internal process. Okay, Walmart and Target should not care about their processes. They need to have the empathy and see this being market-oriented from the consumer's perspective. And all they should care about is creating revenue. They should be agnostic to how that revenue gets created. They should look at it as a path from the consumer and not as a way they organize themselves. All right, that's what market orientation is. Other than consumers adding additional items to their cart when the store is in confusion, is there another value-added service to have an in-store pickup? There could be financing, there could be maintenance, there could be installation, there could be customization features, there could be delivery features. Okay, Team IBM doesn't do that much retailing, but through Watson and a lot of other services and consulting they help a lot of other retailers. The users of Pinterest buy an item in store after pinning and repinning. Can we think of Pinterest as only an online showroom instead of a showroom offline? Will it ever be? No. Pinterest will never be an offline showroom. It can't be. It because they don't control what's being pinned. They do the partnerships with various companies, but that's a very small percentage, less than 10%. I'm saying that number off the top of my head, of all their pins. So, no, I don't see it happening. Why would some stores be more susceptible to showrooming than others? They're not market oriented. I already answered this question. They do not have strong online presence, and they are not agnostic to how things are purchased, and they do not see this from the consumer's perspective. They're all up in the air about showrooming, and showrooming's been happening for years prior to the internet. People went to malls, they went into the 10 stores, and then they made their, they went into other stores and looked at things, or they asked around, or they looked at shoppers. Showrooming's not new, it's just easier to do now. Alrighty. Internet of Things. If you remember when I was doing my history lesson, way back when in one of the first videos, I was looking for Web 3.0. And in 2015, when I was listening to a podcast, it was the first time I heard this Internet of Things term. It really wasn't big in 2015. It was the end of 2015. 2016, it really started picking up steam. We started hearing it a lot. And it was very, very common last year, 2017. So it's extremely mainstream term right now. This is Michael Porter. Michael Porter has to create his own terminology for everything, so he called them smart connected products. But really, the more popular category for this stuff is Internet of Things. All right, Team Bezos, which sells a lot of IoT things. And last thing. The Internet of Things is just making the non-digital digital. I mean, we used to have mechanical watches, now we have digital watches that do more. We used to have light switches, now we have digital light switches. We used to have a thermostat that was mechanical, now we have digital thermostats. Door locks, we talk about the smart home, Where do you think, if anywhere, a line should be drawn about data collection on individuals? Is there some point at where collection should be stopped due to ethical standards? Okay, this is a huge conversation. This is a wonderful Seton Hall conversation because it involves ethics. We really could have an entire class on this topic. And when I say entire class, I'm talking an entire semester-long class, not just one session with 3 articles and me answering questions about this. It's a huge topic. Let me say some things quickly. I believed in an opt-in culture. I think the EU does this right. In other words, the data collection is significantly more transparent, and the only way the data gets collected is if you opt in. I mean, technically speaking, if you go to Target or you go to CVS and you sign up for their loyalty card, you are opting in. I'm okay with that. Where I'm not okay with is when companies are collecting data without our knowledge, and where companies are using data collected to target us when we didn't ask to be targeted. In the United States, there are little to no rules from the FCC or the FTC about online data collection. Little to no. As a matter of fact, they're following in the footprints of, it's easier to talk about it through the terms of a credit card company. I mean, the credit card companies are nasty. I mean, there are 11 or 13 major credit card companies, and all but 2 sell your data to everyone. I mean, even some government agencies. When I lived in the state of Florida, your entire driver's license data, the state of Florida would sell that to anyone who wanted to buy it. Anyone who wanted to buy it, they would sell the entire Florida DMV. There was no laws against it. The state of Florida wanted revenue. They sold it. In the United States, because of, how the country was founded and property and all like that, when you buy a home, that is public domain information. Your name, the address, the size of the house, how much you paid, how much you financed. All those data points are significant. You can extrapolate exponentially just from about 4 or 5 different data points, especially on something that's so important as your address, your house, the home price. If you live in a community where the average home price is, I'll make a crazy number up, $950,000, okay, guess what? There are a lot of companies that will be interested in targeting people with that level of income. This is a big conversation. I think the United States is very, very far behind when it comes to privacy and online data collection, and data collection in general. I'm hoping this conversation about Facebook and Cambridge Analytics, we only see those conversations when a scandal occurs. When Target has a monster breach or when Facebook has a monster breach. But there's no politicians sticking. This is a conversation that I don't see anyone in Washington going after. When it comes to autonomy, is there a certain profession or industry that would not benefit from autonomous help? Certain industry. It's easy for me to spit out legal and it's easy for me to spit out medical. But even there, we're seeing some automation of lower end or easier to answer questions. I have no problem with autonomy and autonomous. I just don't want someone making the final decision. I have no problem having something queue up the decision for me and make my search and my decision making less cognitively intensive. But I believe the final decision should be in our hands. Let me hit pause for 1 second. All right, Team Microsoft. They don't have that many Internet of things, but they do have a lot of cloud computing. That Azure is their brand for the Microsoft Cloud that does a significant amount of Internet of Things computation. Okay. Should marketing departments gather consumer data from previous smart products to begin shaping future items? Sure. Again, I'm an opt-in person. I want to make sure that the consumer who owns the smart connected product agrees to, but being market oriented means going out and getting the data to make future decisions. This is a CRM kind of mentality. And as long as it's done in an opt-in ethical manner, I'm perfectly okay with it. With all the new innovations and abilities smart connected products bring at such a fast rate, how do companies keep up with the constant changing innovations to ensure their product or service doesn't go outdated? Well, they keep coming out with more, faster, innovative products. And the companies that do not, don't survive. I mean, it wasn't that long ago where Palm Pilots and Microsoft CE Windows phones and Blackberries and Nokia were cutting edge technology. We all thought the Motorola Razr was really cool. Really cool. Let's see how fast I can find one. I thought I could find it fast. Let me see how fast I can find it. I was looking for my original iPod. I didn't find it. This is my original iPhone. Kind of ugly looking, man. Look at that. Tiny. But prior to that, I had a Motorola Razr. And we all thought that this was cool, man. Look at those buttons. Look, I could take pictures with it. So thin. Oh my gosh, it's like I don't even have a phone in my pocket. Clamshell. Motorola's done. I mean, Motorola had... Look, even the company I was using, Singular, is gone. I've said this in previous videos at some point. It could be the case that your only competitive advantage is to continually innovate to stay ahead of the competition. Because eventually, everyone's going to catch you, whatever you're doing. I mean, I don't care how much money Apple has. If Apple stopped innovating within 2 years, pretty much every Chinese, South Korean, and Californian company will have better products than Apple. Every one. With smart connectivity being able to possibly eliminate the use of a physical product, perhaps, do you think this would help or hinder product creativity as far as bring new things to the market is concerned? I think if we have a very strong data stream on how people are using things and in a CRM mentality, being helpful and offering suggestions to the users of our products, an Internet of Thing type product, it is very creativity. I don't think it'll hinder product creativity. I think it's more helpful. I think it's a way to create more value. Is there, Team Zuckerberg asks, a more common trade-off companies choose when not to include or creating a new smart product? Most common? Well, they need the technology to be able to do it. I mean, it's one thing to create a smart connected product, but if you don't have the cloud, if you don't have the user interface the UI that's appealing. I mean, take a company like Fitbit. Okay, Fitbits are popular. They were hugely popular there for a little while, pre-Apple Watch. Fitbit just recently came out with something that's like a smart watch. Okay, and you look at it and it doesn't look as good as an Android watch or an Apple Watch. You know, if they need to stay alive, they're going to need to up the ante there a little bit. You know, if they want to stay alive. I mean, so it's resources, really. It comes down to resources. What would you say is the biggest rivalry in business that was created due to overlapping of industries? You'd say the biggest new rivalry? Overlapping of interests? Biggest rivalry? No. I think, if you think of hot spaces, spaces that a lot of stuff is happening right now that you're like, look at what's really, maybe this is just top of mind, but it's not just the smart connected TVs, okay? It's the content packages. I mean, we see both Apple, Amazon, through Prime, Netflix, and HBO all competing for talent on their particular proprietary. Hulu, we just saw a monster, right now Fox is in play and Disney and Comcast are throwing 71 billion, I think there was a 50 billion offer and then a 71 billion dollar offer, The future of how content delivery is in play. There's significant overlapping interests. We just had DirecTV at the house not that long ago, less than 2 hours ago. So AT&T bought DirecTV because for most people, they're never going to have a cable box. They're only going to have this. Verizon started creating their Go90 platform, and they bought AOL, and they bought Yahoo, and they bought a ton of other companies because they need to create their own version of Comcast, basically, because they know a lot of millennials are never going to have a cable box. They're going to use a Google Smart Stick, an Amazon Stick, Roku, an Apple TV, and they're going to have a smart television, and as long as they have an internet connection and they have a contract to content, then that's it. I know that was kind of long-winded, but that's a really hot area right now. Your article mentioned that this new shift to smart connected products will directly or indirectly affect virtually every industry. Agreed. Can you expand on how the shift will indirectly affect some industries? So, a direct effect would be to Comcast. We'll see more cord cutting. Okay? An indirect effect would be to Food TV. Food TV survives based on the revenue stream it gets from Comcast to be on their particular network. Okay? Food TV does not have a significant app or internet presence that they can make up the revenue difference from what they get from the Comcasts and the DirecTVs of the world. The article discusses how Tesla has deepened its relationship with consumers by selling its product directly for a sticker price, avoiding common haggling. Okay. So Tesla, you go to the Chevy dealer, you go to the Toyota dealer, you go to the Hyundai dealer. In all three of those examples in the United States, the dealership is owned by an entrepreneur who buys a license or a franchise from the particular car company. Tesla has no franchised Tesla dealerships. They own the retail stores the way if you go into an Apple store, Apple owns the retail store. It has a direct relationship with its consumers. Do you think other companies will follow this approach in order to improve customer satisfaction? Let me answer this in two halves. Do you think other companies will follow this approach? Absolutely, positively, yes. In order to improve customer satisfaction? Absolutely, positively, no. Remember the chain that we talked about in the module. Satisfaction, we don't care about all that much. It only gets you so far. We care about loyalty, because loyalty we can count on future purchases, and we really care about the CRM. We only get the CRM not through customer satisfaction, through loyalty. So, do you think other companies will follow this approach? Yes, in order to improve their CRM relationships. Because that whole CRM conversation comes back here. And the only way to get the CRM data is like how Amazon gets it. They have a direct relationship with the end user. Tesla wants that same thing. Chevrolet does not have a direct relationship with, my mom has a Cadillac. So my mom bought a Cadillac 2 years ago, a little Cadillac SUV. General Motors has no relationship with my mom, no direct relationship with my mom. The local franchise dealership does. And they don't share all that well. And that is a competitive disadvantage in the long term when we talk about having a CRM relationship that Tesla has, the Cadillac does not. All right, Team Apple. In your opinion, where's the next big market or industry we face enormous growth regarding smart connected applications? There's been a number of questions like that, and there's one right here as well. Everything is going digital. Even products that I didn't even think would go digital, like toilets. Look up, go to YouTube and look up Toto, T-O-T-O, toilets. You know, you don't need to go to the doctor to get your urine tested anymore. The toilet does it for you. Same thing for stool samples. You know, toilet used to be a mechanical thing. It's now becoming a digital thing. Everything's going to become a digital thing, whether we like it or not. Eyeglasses are mechanical. Physics. Eyeglasses will become digital. They will. And we'll have screens inside of them, and we can do searches or ask questions, or there'll be, you know, when we are looking for directions and we walk around a city, we'll see a little arrow that tells us to make a right turn. You know, all of it, everything. With all these smart connected products being developed, is there a looming security risk? There is a boatload of security risks that could threaten an entire system environment to create new environments. Yeah. There are many conversations about security and privacy around the IoTs. A lot of them have open APIs, unfortunately, and it's too easy for us to hack in. And it's the same conversation about, you know, some of the cameras that are in our laptops. They ask you to cover the, you know, you can hack into certain laptops. If you can get into the router in someone's home and that router has access to what? Everything in your home, can you imagine shutting off all the appliances in someone's house? Yeah. There's a lot of 60 Minutes and other investigative news journal articles out there. You could do a quick search and find all those cool stories. You know, eventually we're going to see the technology catch up. But at the moment, it's still a little bit Wild Wild West. Already answered this questions. All right, now we have some Netflix questions. As we progress to the third wave, by the way, Michael Porter's the one that made this up. I don't know if it's the third wave or not. Developing the systems of systems. Will the idea of closed open systems be industry dependent or market dependent? I don't think it's going to be industry dependent. I think it's going to be a function of the strategy that the company pursues. Google wants open, Apple wants closed. You know, Apple's trying to tell you that their network is more secure if you stay within the Apple ecosystem, because they do not use your data to monetize you, versus Google does, and Facebook does. You know. Will this be end of single product companies and manufacturers? No, I don't think so. And we have more new single product companies and manufacturers being developed now. You know. If vertical integration becomes the standard operating and engineering practice, won't production and manufacturing costs simply be too prohibitive for startups? It depends. I mean, we used to think about drones, for instance. Drones were a very complicated product. Okay? there was no company out there doing it. You had to figure out how to build it. There was all this off-the-shelf stuff. Chris Anderson, who created Wired magazine, in a number of his talks, he talks about his experience in the drone industry. But then guess what? And there was a lot of startups involved, and then the production and the manufacturing by scale happened. It happened through Chinese manufacturing. But there's going to be other products. There's going to be other things that's only a startup sees the market. And the startups these days too, for all intents and purposes, Uber is a startup. There's a big rage right now. It's been one of the stories of the summers about digital scooters and electronic scooters and making the Uber of scooters, or rideshare bikes but with digital electric scooters that go like 25 miles an hour. Just within the last week, there's been a couple front page articles on CNN.com. No. These companies have hundreds of millions of dollars of VC money backing them. As the article explains, the third wave of technology can potentially be the biggest yet new development happening daily. What point of view do we draw this line? This is too much technology, and leave some products the way they were. For example, does my refrigerator need to be able to show me what's inside via a screen on the front door? Why can't I just simply open the door and check the contents? Is the technology going too far? This is the question that I think the consumers and the market have to decide. Okay? But some of us watching this video have Amazon, what are they called? Buttons? They have little buttons? Or you have the Amazon shopping wand? I wouldn't have a problem if I had a relationship with Amazon and Whole Foods, and my refrigerator told Whole Foods that these 10 things, whenever they get too low, just have them delivered to my house. A screen on the door to see what's inside isn't helpful, but having my refrigerator placing the order for me so I don't have to do it, that's very helpful. Think about it from the term of value add and what's in it for me. If there's something in it for me, if there's nothing in it for me, I don't care if the front of my refrigerator can have a TV screen, for instance, and stream the web from a different part of the house. But the days of when your refrigerator does your ordering for you is coming. Where are the biggest opportunities from a regulatory standpoint that governments need to enact or modify to ensure the Internet of Things meets its own hype? It's privacy and security. We already kind of had this conversation. The human resources impact is very interesting. My employee encourages nanodegrees for some of these newer sought-after talents, machine learning. Instead of calling nanodegrees, you should call them certificates, or what's the other? I guess certificates probably still like the best. These nanodegrees provide an education and a certification. Certification is actually better, around a specific topic in a condensed format. Now, with technology evolving at such a fast pace, it seems impossible to stay in front of the next trend. I don't know about that. How do you and your colleagues view these educational alternatives in a fast-paced labor market? Well, Seton Hall is also doing the certification stuff. And we have a College of Continuing Education, and there's some stuff in there that are very narrow and very specific. A lot of these certifications are free. I mean, if you want to learn Google's AdWords system, go to Google and learn for free. But these nanodegrees, I like certifications. That's really, really a big deal. I like that terminology better. Okay, last question here on article number 2. The system that connects products will be the core advantage, not the product themselves. Yes, actually. It actually is. If the systems are strong enough, will it push products from different companies, manufacturers from same or similar? That's an interesting question. So let's say you have a home network, and your home network is Eros. E-E-R-O-S, or something like that. Eero. E-E-R-O. I think that's it. And Eero cuts a deal with Google and is recommending all Google-type products like Nest. Google owns Nest and Nest thermostats and Nest fire detectors. Yeah, that's a little weird, but it could happen that way. You would want to think that the network would be agnostic, but I have a feeling that that's not going to happen. I don't see it being happening. Lately, there's been a constant debate about the importance of privacy in today's technological world. How can these markets be more prevalent in society with the growing concerns around privacy, especially with... I think the privacy conversation is going to catch up. But in the United States, the culture is buyer caveat emptor, buyer beware. You know, the trade-off for having this new gee whiz cool thing is sacrificing privacy. You know, and we're hearing this, and yes, Apple is one of the companies that are talking specifically about this. You know, where they don't want you to sacrifice privacy and still get cutting edge. I think a lot that this is a central conversation. It is out there. It's now in the popular press, especially given what happened in the last election. And we're going to see more. I would be very, very surprised. I would be very surprised if it didn't happen in the midterms, or it might happen in the midterms coming up this fall. I'll certainly be surprised if it doesn't happen in the next presidential cycle, where there's some kind of a conversation. You know, we have the FDA to protect us for, Food and Drug Administration to protect us. We have the Environmental Protection Agency to protect us. There's no equivalent of that for digital. And it's coming. I don't see how it's not. Okay, back to Omnichannel. Our final article here. Very appropriate to have Team Bezos, asking Omnichannel questions. After reading this, it appears that stores such as Toys R Us and Babies R Us could have benefited from a strategy like this. Do you know if they ever tried to institute an omnichannel approach? And they did not. Toys R Us was very much a physical retailer and a stack it high, let it fly kind of mentality. And it caught up with them. They had other problems, okay? It wasn't just that they didn't have an online product, They had significant competition from bigger competitors such as Walmart and Target and Amazon, who, because they sold more than just toys, it was easy for them to survive in a 12-month retailing cycle. But no, Toys R Us was very much... I've had Dr. Dano students work there. We've had Seton Hall people work there. Their headquarters was less than 20 minutes from the campus. Bummer all around. Grew up with Toys R Us, but in the end, it's their own fault. Even with this omnichannel strategy, wouldn't they have also had to adjust pricing to truly compete with Amazon? But they were already adjusting pricing to compete with Amazon, to compete with Walmart, and to compete with Target in the store. That's one of the other issues that kind of killed them. They try to do exclusives. They weren't efficient in their supply chain. They weren't efficient with regards to having year-round. They had boom and bust cycles. Basically, in a traditional Black Friday kind of mentality, if they did not have a good Christmas holiday, they were done for the year. If so many brick-and-mortar stores are closing, why would anyone open one up? Because a physical store offers things that a digital store does not. As I said earlier, I don't think we need as many physical stores. However, we still need them. One interesting, in Philadelphia, the corporate headquarters for Anthropology and give me a sec. Urban Outfitters, and they have one or two other retail formats. They're seeing that the physical stores, especially in the last 5 years, same store sales are dropping. Not as many people are buying. So they did a very interesting thing where they purchased 3 retail food chains from one of the top chefs in Philadelphia. And they're opening restaurants inside of retail stores because you can't digitize food. And people still go out to eat. So they'll go out to eat and they'll make revenue from the food, but people also shop because they're already there. It's kind of neat. It's coming. So they'll open, like down in Austin, they'll open a retail center, and the anchor of the retail center will be 2 of the 3 food retail chains that they bought from Mark Vetri. And then they'll also have an Urban Outfitters, an Anthropologie, and maybe one other store. They're covered. They'll get plenty of traffic because of the restaurants. Team Google. So okay, answered that one. But, Warby Parker's opening physical stores. But I see them, if they go national, they're not national yet. I mean, Warby Parker might end up with like 150, 200 stores where, Walmart has 1,200. Okay? You don't need 1,200. You need some. Do you think there are also... Oh, another question. There's some things you just can't do digitally. I mean, some of you guys might have kids. Have you ever been to a Lego Discovery Center? And it's like amazing. So, guess what? I'd rather the Macy's disappear at my mall and in that space open up a Lego Discovery Center. You could go once a week and not get bored. Still spend money. Do you think there will also be room in the marketplace for brick and mortar locations? Yes, I answered this question. Does it depend on the industry? No, I don't think it does. Here's what I think. If you can make the retail brick and mortar more of an experience, more social, more entertainment, more fun, I could see Dick's disappearing, but I don't see Cabela's disappearing. First of all, there's not as many stores. And second of all, when you go there, it's a boatload of fun. You can learn how to fish. You can learn how to shoot. You can learn how to do this. If I went to Home Depot, they do some classes, but they should do a lot more classes. In general, is it better for companies to take the primary brick and mortar online or a mixture of both? We've kind of already gone through this. It's a mixture of both. Since coupon incentives for online-only purchases seem to fire back, would there be another viable option to have online-only product availability, or would that cause the same problem? I don't know why you would do online-only. This is a very much non-MO. We kind of went through this rationale before. I'm not a fan. The overhead of having a physical store is very costly, especially in high foot traffic areas. Plus the fact that these stores will also have a full stock room to prevent shortages. Do you think that their in-store profits will supersede these costs by far? It depends on the store. For Apple, oh yes. For Tiffany, oh yes. For JCPenney's, oh no. Oh no. And what happens is, in the past, the Walmarts of the world and the Targets of the world and the CVS's of the world would want enough inventory in the back room to get them through a whole week. Where physical stores should carry some inventory but not a whole lot. And there should be some seamless, we don't have it in the store, order it online, it'll be in your house in 3 hours. And that's coming. We are seeing 1 hour delivery, 2 hour delivery, 3 hour delivery, same day delivery. It is why Amazon bought Whole Foods. Over the past years, large resale chains, JCPenney's, Macy's, The Gap, closed hundreds and hundreds of stores. Do you think if they were properly executing the winning omnichannel strategies, they will reopen stores? No. They need physical stores. Sorry for the call in the background. They just don't need as many stores. And for companies like The Gap, who do not have a significant online presence, or JCPenney's that does not have a significant online presence, Macy's is at least trying to have a strong online presence. And in some categories, such as wedding registry, it's not too bad. Is there a mix of Team Cook? Is there a mix of what percentage of your customers is online versus offline the companies are trying to achieve? No, it's a direct function of the company. And to be honest with you, it should be more about costs and customer acquisition and not online versus offline. I know every store is different, but what does Walmart know? Walmart keeps buying digital companies thinking that will fix their problem. What did they just spend? $3 billion on Jet.com? It was a company that wasn't profitable and had less than, $500 million in revenue. Yet Walmart spent $3 billion on them thinking that Jet.com is going to fix their Walmart.com problem. I don't know if it will. If in-store customers achieve more revenue for the retailer versus online, can companies keep incentivizing that group to continue going in-store? That would be worth it. The benefits for going in-store need to be different than the benefits with buying online. Okay? And if the benefits are strong enough, you would go in-store. Incentivizing a group just to push them towards a channel reduces your profitability. This again is a non-market oriented way of thinking about this. You should think about this from the customer's perspective and not trying to make them do something that you want them to do. Right? Every time you incentivize, you lose margin. You're giving coupons, you're giving discounts. What you should do is follow the behavior. Find out what people want and give it to them the way they want it. And then you will reap the benefits. Team Hastings, Netflix. Do you think the results are indicative of any densely populated urban area with similar technology usage? Well, it certainly helps in a densely populated area, urban area. Okay? It will be easier for Amazon to have drone delivery in more densely populated urban areas. There's more people, shorter distances for them to drop packages. This is harder to do in rural areas. But even in rural areas, there isn't a whole lot of face-to-face retailing either. There might be one big box store every, 200 or 300 miles, if that. The article explains it is difficult to shift in-store customers to online once a physical store location is closed. How would retailers approach a store closing strategy for customer retention? Is there any consistencies that can be found to easily transition the consumer from one channel to the other? Okay, let's pretend Sears goes out of the face-to-face thing and they just want to do fully online Sears, craftsman.com. Okay? And all they do is have a website store for craftsman.com. They're going to die. They're not providing any additional benefits for the consumer to go online. It's not discounting, it's benefit. If craftsman.com became the Bob Vila, remember Sears did have a relationship with Bob Vila at one point, where all my how-to I learned through Sears, and through the course of the video, anything that I saw in the video I could buy right then and there, then it would probably be something that would be worthwhile. What are some of the failures of some of the big rock retailers that met their demise? Why didn't their hard copy catalog set them up for better of having online? Because hard copy catalogs were a one-way medium. It wasn't about a two-way dialogue. Hard copy catalogs such as... I remember a long time ago when I was getting my MBA, it was like a really big deal when LL Bean came up with 110 different versions of their catalogs to mail to their customer segments. I was like, whoa, now that's marketing. You know, Amazon does that every day to every customer. So what LL Bean did, their infrastructure was set up for some segmentation, but really it was more about a mailing and logistics setup, and then having people take calls online, or maybe having a static web interface for people to check boxes and fill out an order. It doesn't do what Amazon does with the AI, with the backend, with the cloud, with the recommendation engines, with the customizing of one-to-one catalogs. Every customer that uses Amazon gets their own custom catalog. All right, Team IBM, last two questions. What should a brick and mortar stores do when online shopping is thriving? I think I've already answered this question. I've already answered this question. What other incentives would be researched and explored if another similar study was performed? I don't know about it. We keep going back to incentives, and granted, I know incentives were a part of the article, but really, find out what people want and give it to them. Be market oriented. Find out what the benefits are for the customer, regardless of the channel, and be agnostic. The more benefits you can provide, the more revenue you will earn. That's the way we should be thinking. This omnichannel thing is a very, very big deal. We are going to see in 2018 a number of companies disappear. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. You know, companies that are not set up for the CRM, Amazon-like relationship with people, you don't have to be a digital company to have an Amazon or a Netflix relationship with you. Kroger does it to a large extent, and so does CVS, and so does Target. Companies that do not have that kind of value-added relationship are not going to survive in today's day and age when we're addicted to these things. Because we're just not paying attention enough to traditional top-down promotion that JCPenney's uses and that Sears uses to drive enough traffic in those stores, given the low margins that retailers normally have. End scene. I thank you for your time. I thank you for your energy. We have another week next week. Email me if you have any questions.